Hello, welcome everybody to a special edition of Inside the Birds. Geoff Mosher and Adam Caplan. Really thrilled to be joined by two special guests that not only are you going to hear talk some Eagles in this episode, but all throughout the NFL season right here on the Inside the Birds platform. We are pleased to bring in the two new hosts of a new show called Birds Weekly on Inside the Birds, featuring none other than Ray Didinger and Derrick Gunn. And these two guys are going to talk some Eagles football twice a week on the Inside the Birds platform, usually on Tuesdays and Fridays. You never know with the NFL schedule, but they're going to recap the game that was, and then later in the week talk about the game that will be. And Adam and I were really excited, fellas, to have you on, to have you talk some birds. And this won't be new for either of you, because Gunner, you did Gun on One for the last 2 years on Inside the Birds, and we noticed that every time you had Ray on, it was like must-see. All your shows were must-see TV, but the views on those and the listens on those were special, so we figured let's get you guys together. How excited are you?
Well, when you presented this opportunity to me back in the spring, Geoff, I immediately said yes because of my long withstanding admiration and respect for Ray, and of course, we worked together for years. Who better to sit and chop up football with than a walking encyclopedia of football knowledge? But then I said to myself, would Ray want to stoop and lower his level to work with lowly me on a football show weekly? I said, he could work with the best of the best, not the worst of the worst. And I said, well, Geoff, let's see what happens. And lo and behold, I was happy when Ray said, you know what, I'd be happy to do it. I will lower my standards for Gunner.
Not
very
true.
gracious of you, Ray.
Not true. Gunner and I worked together for about 20 years at Comcast Sportsnet, and the launch, the literal launch of that whole network, which actually started with an Eagles post-game show. Mm-hmm. And we just had a ball together, and loved talking football with him. And what could be better than launching this show when you're the defending Super Bowl champs? And I think there's so much to talk about and so much to look forward to. I can't wait to get started.
Yeah. No, Adam, the symmetry is great. They were at Comcast Sportsnet, now NBC Sports Philly, for quite a while. I hopped in, then started to work closely both with Derrick and Ray. We did that Eagles Rewind show with Jamal Jackson, the tape breakdown show together, and that was really cool. Adam, you did, what was it, Daily News Live, right? And then then what they turned the name of the show into? Something else.
Philly Sports Talk, maybe?
Philly Sports Talk, yeah. So Ray, unfortunately for you, you have worked, as Gunn said, with the best and the worst. It's all of us. We're the best and the worst, because none of us are still there anymore.
I guess that's true, isn't it?
But good stuff. It's going to be a great show. I know our viewers and our listeners are really going to be excited to hear a different perspective each week, especially from two guys who have covered the team for as long as you guys have had and seen the team through your eyes. And, Ray, later, in a few minutes, we'll get to you on this Eagles linebacker, inside stack linebacker situation, because for as long as you cover the team, I don't know if you would ever – I didn't know if it was ever going to come full circle again where you could say, wow, the Eagles are actually really good at inside linebacker. It's been a long time since they've been this deep and talented there, haven't they?
It is a different look. I mean, you don't have to go back quite as far as Bednarik, but close, but I mean, actually you look at the players they have there now. I mean, one of your linebackers last year was a finalist for Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, for that, you legitimately probably have to go back to Berge.
Right.
But I mean, it's certainly a different set of circumstances this year. And, you've got Bond coming back, who I don't think was by any means a fluke or a flash in the pan. I think he's a really good player. And I'm very excited about the addition of Campbell. I think that I'm very surprised. I think they were sort of fortunate that he was available to them at 31, because to me, he's a top 12 talent that they got. And I think he's just going to make that position even stronger.
Yeah, no doubt. By the way, we can all say, because I know that there was some confusion about the whole Jerry Robinson, they haven't drafted. This kid, Campbell, is an off-ball linebacker. That streak is over. The fact that he can rush the passer and maybe also use as an edge rusher down the road is is significant, but I think the streak is finally Adam, the streak is broken, right?
Jerry
Rice
look,
move over.
it was funny. Was it 2 years ago? I came up with that line. I promise you, the Eagles linebackers will not embarrass fans anymore.
Yes.
I mean, Derrick's been around.
Nobody agreed with you.
Yeah, exactly. But Derrick's been around so long. I mean, think about it, right? So you came. When was your first year at Sportsnet? 97?
First year was 97. That was when Sportsnet started. 97.
So you've seen it. Both of you and Ray have seen it. But would you say Trot Senior? It's amazing that Trot Junior's playing. Would you say he was one of the best linebackers you covered?
Yes, absolutely. No question about it. You know, he wasn't the biggest linebacker out there. Obviously, he was thought very little of when you think about where he was drafted. And I think at the time the team thought he would be nothing more than a special teamer. But man, did he basically take the bull by the reins and turn himself into one of the best linebackers the Eagles have ever had in this organization. And, you know, every time I would talk to Trot, he said, I came from nothing and I had to prove myself. He said, every day I played the game, I had to prove myself from the time I started to the time that my career ended. And he just had this tenacity about him. It was like a light switch, you know, nicest guy in the world off the field. But once you got on the field between the stripes, this light switch went on and he became this downhill type linebacker. And he was virtually unblockable in a lot of, I mean, you think about a guy of his size when you look at him. He was excellent against the run. He was a very good pass rusher. And, you know, teammates fed off of him. A lot of people talk about Doc and how teammates fed off Doc. A lot of people fed off Trot in the way he approached the game. And Trot was very open about speaking his mind. You think about the talent they had on the teams that he played on. And once he got himself comfortable with the organization and within himself and the team scheme, he was not shy about speaking his mind in any way, shape, or form. And players gravitated towards that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Trot, I think Gunner said it very well, but I think Trot is an example of a guy that was found the right system that played to his strengths. And it's just sort of a testimony to what a great coach Jim Johnson was. Because when he came up as a rookie, I mean, he hardly saw the field. I mean, Emmett Thomas and Ray Rhodes couldn't quite figure out what to do with him. Small college player in the NFL. They weren't quite sure that he could do all the things they wanted him to do. So he wound up just sort of sitting on the sidelines for the first year or two until Jim Johnson came in and just said, hey, and Gunner used the term downhill. That's what this guy is. We just got to let him attack the line of scrimmage. We got to let him attack the A gap, blow it up inside, and just shut down the run. And that's once he got in that, and that was what Jim did so well. I mean, he took Brian Dawkins and put him in positions to do all the things he could do. He saw the strengths that Trot had and put Trot in a position to do exactly what he could do. And Trot was a Pro Bowl player, went to Washington, and they couldn't figure out what to do with him. And again, he kind of went back to being a guy in the shadows, came back to Philadelphia and went right back to the Pro Bowl. So, I mean, credit to him. And he did. He had a terrific career as an Eagle and, Eagles Hall of Famer without a doubt. But it's once again, it speaks, I think, to the what a great coach Jim Johnson was, that I don't know that I ever saw a defensive coach come through here that was so good at evaluating defensive personnel and then putting them in exactly the right place to play to their strengths. That was Jim was a very good coach for many reasons, but I think it kind of started there.
Let's stay on that for a second, because I've often thought that in many ways, Vic Fangio reminds me of Jim, from the really straightforward, straight shooting press conference and just the ability to put certain players in a position where maybe they hadn't succeeded before, but then doing it now. Zach Bond, good example, to being known as someone. Now, Jim was a little bit more of a blitzer, but he didn't blitz as much as people thought. He just knew how to disguise it and then break down a protection scheme. But you guys have seen many of these defensive coordinators. Ray, do you feel like there's a common, I guess, DNA thread there between Vic and Jim?
Very, very similar. Very similar. And it's, I mean, I thought that all last year. Part of it was the press conferences. Part of it was the way he answered questions, very terse, very to the point, sort of didn't suffer fools gladly. I mean, that was certainly Jim, and that's the way Vic is. I mean, they are both, just old school coaches that come through the system and have their way of doing things, but have similar attributes. And I think that the ability to evaluate players, look at players, figure out what their strengths are, and then put them in positions within your defense where they do exactly what they're suited to do, as opposed to what so many coaches doing, saying, here's my system, here's what I want you to do, now go do it, whether it applies to his skill set or not. It's amazing to me in the NFL how many coaches just continue to coach that way. Jim didn't do it, and Vic didn't do it. And you saw, well, first of all, you saw what a tremendous difference Jim made in this Eagles defense right away, going way back. And then last year when the Eagles hired Vic, I think Gunnar and I even talked about it on a Gun on One early in the season, that I think this guy, nobody's really talking about it much, but I think he's going to be a huge difference maker for this team. And he was. It took him about 4 weeks to get everything kind of sorted out and learn what his players could do, and they learned his system. But boy, once that all kicked in, by the end of the year, they were playing the best defense in the whole NFL.
And when you take into consideration, Ray and Adam and Geoff, that look at the volume of youth he had to use to get to where this defense got as the number one defense. And all off season, I'm listening to an abundance of people talk about how this defense could take a significant step backwards. I don't see that being the case. When you think about, because you asked a bunch of kids to step in, and they played the game to the highest level on the highest platform you can possibly play in their first and second years in a lot of ways. So these are proven vets. They got to do something. A lot of NFL players, when you think about the percentage of NFL players that get a chance to play in a Super Bowl and to exceed expectation the way they did, that doesn't happen very often. So yes, did they lose a Brandon Graham? Did they lose a lot of talent along that defense? Absolutely. But I don't think this I'm not going to sit here and say I think it's going to repeat as the number one defense in the National Football League. Sure. But I do believe they have enough talent in-house if they can stay healthy. And, of course, eventually when they get Nakobe Dean back, I do believe it can be a top 10, top 12 defense. It's a defense. And when you look historically at winners of the Super Bowl, defenses between the ranges of 8 and 15 were successful enough because they had such potent offenses to get over the hump. And I think that's where this team is sitting right now in terms of overall personnel. The offense is going to take care of itself. Everything's back on the offense. Can the defense make just enough stops to turn the ball back over to the offense? And as I sit here right now looking at this defense on paper, I can say yes. Is the road tougher this year? Their schedule is murder. No question about it. But you're not playing with a bunch of scared kids, kids who are wet behind the ears. They have a wealth of experience that's going to translate into what this defense could potentially be in 2025.
Ray and Derrick, I want you both to address this. So 2021, this guy, Nick Sirianni, gets hired, right? I want to switch gears a little bit because you both covered Andy Reid. In 2021, you had that first press conference. Who was this guy? He's never called plays.
Yeah.
And in 1999, the Eagles hire a guy never called plays in Andy Reid. Mm-hmm. It was shocking. So, Derrick, let's go to you because you lived that one as a reporter. No one lived more with the Eagles than you did. So, Andy Reid gets hired. What did you remember? What did you know about him? What were your initial thoughts on Reid?
Sitting there listening to his press conference, I'm thinking to myself, this is not going to work. Obviously, he was nervous. And we came away saying, man, he doesn't give you much, does he? He gives you the rah-rah speech, but he doesn't give you much in depth. And then as you got to know Andy Reid, the more successful they became, the less he would give you when he got before the podium. And when things would go bad, I'm thinking this town's going to tear this guy up. The one definitive thing that saved Andy Reid was the fact that people overlooked his lack of personality because they were so consistently winning, 5 divisional championships, conference championships, and eventually a Super Bowl. But he was not your typical coach that the city of Philadelphia wanted. They wanted somebody who rolled up on their sleeve. I hate to say this, like a Chip Kelly. What was the one definitive line that Chip Kelly told us one day? We're from Philly, we fight. People gravitate towards that stuff. Look how long we use that in the media across multiple platforms. Andy Reid never gave you that. And as I got to know Andy Reid, and he's a good friend of mine now, I would always sit away from the cameras and ask him, why don't you ever show the personality I get to see away from the cameras? Because Andy Reid is naturally a funny guy.
Yeah, he is.
When you think about it, he could be a borderline stand-up comedian in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. And he says, you know what, Gunner? That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to give him exactly what I want to give him, and that's it. And I said to myself, that's a unique way of looking at it, especially in a hardcore sports town like Philadelphia that lives, eats, and breathes Philadelphia Eagles, and they want to know everything possible about the Eagles, and he would give them virtually nothing week in and week out.
Yeah, I think that's a very good description. I had kind of the same reaction to Andy's first press conference. I remember him. People were asking very specific questions about what is your system, what is your philosophy, what is your scheme, and Andy kept answering everyone by saying, "Look, you just have to trust me."
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there thinking, why? Based on what? Would trust you? Why? What do we? And look, I mean, he just got crushed by the media. I remember getting in my car and driving back to the office and put on WIP to get the immediate fallout. And I remember, God love him, Jody McDonald was doing middays then, and Jody said, "God, I thought I was listening to Rich Kotite again." That's how it started. But where I really turned the corner with Andy was his going into year 2. I was working at NFL Films then, and Steve Sable assigned me to be the producer of a show called 6 Days to Sunday, which meant that we were going to be embedded with the Eagles coaching staff for an entire week while they prepared for a game, go day by day by day, how that process works. And he assigned me to be the producer, which meant I was going to be working in Andy's hip pocket all week.
Wow.
And I went into it thinking he's not going to give us anything. And over the course of that week, I learned 2 things. I got tremendous insight into what a good coach he was and how thoroughly he prepared for games. I mean, he was really good, really good, way better than he would ever have suggested in a press conference. And you just watch the way he installed things, the way he saw things, the way he was bringing along his young quarterback, Donovan McNabb. I mean, I thought every day, I thought, oh, this guy, he's smart. And the other thing I learned was I got to know all of his assistant coaches, and I began to see what a great staff he has.
Yes.
I mean, these guys are really good. I mean, even guys like I didn't know Jim Johnson, until that week. I had never heard of Steve Spagnuolo.
Yeah.
That week, I mean, by the end of the week, I thought, man, number one, the guy on top is a really smart guy. And I think he's going to turn this team around, and he has a tremendous staff behind him. So that week, I mean, I had a lot of doubt going into that second season based on what we saw the first season. But after spending that week and seeing the way that coaching staff prepared that team, I felt like, no, this is a coach. If they leave him in place, these are guys that will turn this thing around. And sure enough, wasn't that far down the road, they went to a Super Bowl.
Wow, that is great access. And then funny, oddly enough, the guy now, he's won his Super Bowls. He's very successful. And now you see, Gunner, the personality coming out in these State Farm commercials.
Absolutely.
I'm like, is that Andy Reid, like Fumble-Rooski and having fun?
Exactly.
Yeah.
He just needed to win and get that pressure off. He needed honestly, Gunner, he needed to listen to his own advice. He just needed to trust himself that the win, he was going to win, and he could be okay and let loose of himself in public.
I think Andy Reid finally got to a point in his career where he's accomplished everything you want to accomplish as a coach in the National Football League. There's no question to me he's a Hall of Fame head coach. He's won multiple Super Bowls. He's had consistent winners in two major football markets in Philadelphia and in Kansas City. And I think basically he's still coaching now because, number one, I don't think he knows what else to do with himself. Coaching is his life. And number two, he enjoys mentoring and teaching young men. He still does at this stage. There's no pressure on Andy Reid. At this stage of his life, there's no pressure on Andy Reid anymore. He can walk, he can ride off into the sunset on his own. And even if he got fired, as he did in Philadelphia, he rides off and his legacy is intact. When you think about how long he has coached in the league, how many coaches get to coach for as long as he has, number one, and number two, stay with the same organization for as long as he has? That doesn't happen very often in today's football. Organizations get jittery and coaches are gone. Look how many organizations are turning over coaches every 2 to 4 years. You know, there's no consistency in those organizations, i.e., they don't win. But luckily, a town like Philadelphia and a town like Kansas City understands consistency breeds success. Even when you have failure, follow your process and it'll pan out. And it has for both organizations.
Derrick, real quick, and want to get Ray's point on this. So we fast forward 22 years. Nick Sirianni is hired in 2021.
Yeah.
Did you have a feeling similar? Like, who is this guy? Like, what were your thoughts when they hired him? What do you think of him now?
Yeah, when you think about the names that were bantered about the possibility who they were going to get hired, and let's face it, a couple coaches didn't want to come here. When you think about that, there were a few that didn't want to come here. So when they settled on Nick Sirianni, again, you're thinking, wait a minute. Out of all the possible candidates, this is the guy you come up with? I mean, he was a young, energetic guy. He gave you more than an Andy Reid did, but you could tell he was nervous about not saying the wrong things. And you just had to wait and see. And that first season, of course, was not the greatest season. But as you talk to the player, the thing that I try to gravitate towards when a new coach comes in and you're covering that locker room day in and day out is getting a feel for the mindset of what the players are thinking. And because I had such a good relationship across the board with players in the locker room, they would stand in front of the cameras and they would give you the corporate answers. Nobody wanted to step out of line because they knew they were going to call from upstairs, not from Jeffrey, but from Big Dom. See, there's a difference. But then when you talk to the players and they tell you, D Gun, just give this guy a chance. I'm telling you, this guy knows how to coach football. Even the Brandon Grahams, all the Lane Johnsons, all this guy knows how to coach football. So whereas everybody would get jittery because of the inconsistencies they saw, I would sit back and I would watch from a different perspective than a lot of people did in terms of how he coached the game, how he related to his players, and then some of the corny stuff he came up with, and you talk to the players in the locker room, again, away from cameras, and they're like, D-Gun, the thing we love most about him, he has fun with the game. He can be hard when he wants to, but he has fun with the game, and that's what we're looking for. And lo and behold, look where he is now.
Yeah, absolutely. Took it from Andy and went one step further.
Yeah.
Listen, just a quick question here before we end the show, and the question is really only for Ray. Do you have a cell phone yet, Ray?
Yeah.
Judging by that response, I'm going to say no. Okay, that's okay, Ray. You're just not going to understand what I'm about to say next.
Okay,
because we're going to talk about that one guy in the group chat who hit a 5-leg parlay in week 1 and doesn't shut up about it for the rest of the season. Now, if you don't have a cell phone, you're not in a group chat. But all the rest of us three, we know all about group chats and how annoying they can be, especially for the guy who wins the 5-leg parlay in week 1 and talks about it all season. But guess what? We don't really hate him. We want to be that guy, and MyBookie makes that possible. MyBookie makes it stupid easy to get on all the action, whether it's college ball, NFL, super contests, survivor pools, you name it. All the spreads, player props, and in-game lines you could want all under one roof with MyBookie. And if you're new to MyBookie, that's all right. Just use our promo code. It's the Birds, all one word, THEBIRDS. Any bet you choose up to $500 is fully covered. So make your play, and if it doesn't hit, you get it right back when you opt in using your bet back bonus token. There's no better time to jump in, no better place to play. Football is back. Let's make some money with MyBookie. Oh, great. It's awesome to talk Eagles with you guys. Ray Didinger, Derrick Gunn. They're going to co-host the show on our platform, Birds Weekly. It's going to be twice a week, all throughout the season. You're going to recap the game that was, and then later in the week, you're going to preview the game that will be. And Ray, everyone knows that not only have you been a tremendous Hall of Fame sports writer in your career, but you're also a playwright. Tommy and Me is the 10th year anniversary coming up of Tommy and Me. Right. Amazing play that everybody should go out and see about Ray's relationship with former Eagle great Tommy McDonald. But now you got another play coming out. Is this what we hear?
What?
I do. We're in rehearsal right now, and the play is called Spinner. And it is going to be it's about ice hockey, which is a little bit of a departure for me, but it's
about the presses.
And it's opening. We're in rehearsal now, and we are opening at the Delaware Theater Company in Wilmington on September the 17th. And the show will run for 3 weeks through October the 5th. So I hope folks come out to it. We have an absolutely sensational cast. We have 7 of the very best actors working in this area. They have a combined 19 Barrymore Awards. That's our cast. They're as good as it gets. And it's a whole different kind of story than Tommy and me. But I think it's a story that people find pretty compelling. So go to the Delaware Theater Company website, order your tickets, and come out and see us. And I hope to meet you in the lobby.
Can you give us the quick blurb on Spinner? Like it's about a hockey player, but what in particular?
Yeah, well, it's a story of Brian Spencer, who played 10 years in the NHL back through the 70s. And it's a little bit like Tommy and me in the sense that people think Tommy and me is a football story, but it's not really. It's really a story about a little boy and his hero. And Spinner's a little bit the same way in that hockey is the backdrop to it, but it's really a father and son story, and about how this kid from the wilds of British Columbia has this lumberjack father whose only mission in life is to see his son play in the NHL. And it's about their journey from Fort St. James, British Columbia to the National Hockey League and the price that both father and son paid to get him there. That's kind of it in a nutshell.
All right, great.
I have one question. Ray has all these plays, and he's never asked me to be like a character in one of his plays. I'm the equivalent of the poor man's Denzel Washington. I want you to know.
Aren't you enough of a character? You're enough of a character in real life that you got to be in his plays.
That's a good point. Valid point. Okay. All right.
Okay. Hey, listen, all playwrights talk in terms of trilogies. Everybody talks in terms of three works. Gunner, you got number 3.
There it is. Nice. All right, coming soon to a theater near you. Just has to write it. Well, listen, the link to more information on Spinner, Ray's play, is in the description box of this podcast, both on YouTube and podcast platforms. So just click the link, get the information, and when it's ready, go out and see Spinner. Really looking forward to it, Ray. Awesome stuff. Let's finish this off. We'll talk about this Eagles season coming up. This is pretty amazing. Thursday night, Dallas. They're going to unfurl the championship banner. Still a lot of questions about the Eagles. You're right, Gunner. They have a lot of young talent on defense. It's very hard to repeat in the NFL. What are the two things that are really circling in your mind? I'll start with you, Dion, as the Eagles get ready to open their season Thursday night.
Number one, navigating this schedule. I believe I saw something that said this is the first time in history that a defending champion returns the next season, and 10 of their games are against teams that went to the playoffs last year. 10 games are against teams that went to the playoffs. And number two, the cornerback position opposite Quinyon Mitchell. Now, right as we sit here right now, or Dory Jackson has won that job, which is a little bit, to me, unsettling when you think about here's a guy who's a former first-round pick. He was drafted 18th back in 2017, spent 4 years with the Giants, 4 with the Titans, but he never really panned out the way a lot of people thought he would, and a lot of that had to do with injuries. And then all of a sudden he comes in here and he beats out a lot of the young talent we thought would be truly fighting for that spot opposite Quinyon, and he wins the position. So that tells me there's a lot of uncertainty on that side of the football field. So I hope this doesn't happen, but when I look at this schedule, to me, it equates to what that Eagles team of 2004 went through. They won a Super Bowl. They turned around in 2005. Now, I don't think this is going to happen. T.O. lost his mind. There's no player on this roster that's going to make that happen. But the volume of injuries that team went through in 2005 was ridiculous. Players falling by the wayside and finished like 6-10, I believe it was, in 2005. I hope that doesn't happen this year. I think this team is stacked enough to where they can have a good measure of success. Will they win the volume of games they won in 2024? I don't know. I'm looking at I'm teeter-tottering 11 wins right now with this team if they can stay healthy. The key is staying healthy. So those two things to me jump out first and foremost.
Yeah, certainly. And Ray, what's circling your mind?
I think that's probably kind of the same feeling. I mean, we've seen this team in this position 4 other times coming off a Super Bowl. And each time that next year was a very difficult and largely unhappy experience. And it just speaks to the challenge of trying to come off a Super Bowl and do it again. It's just hard.
Yeah.
And you had, one of the times with Dick Vermeil, who is a great coach. And another time was with Andy, who's another great coach. I mean, 2 Hall of Famers, right? And they couldn't navigate it. And so that history, the fact is you take those 4 years coming off a Super Bowl when you're defending NFC champs and put them all together, you won one playoff game. Yep. You went back 1 year, you didn't make it back at all. Another year, the only game you won was the double doink game that you were lucky to win.
Yes,
right. That year has been a difficult year, full of injuries, full of controversy, full of drama, and I don't know if that just follows being in a Super Bowl, but it certainly does in this town. So they're going to have to deal with that. And then the other part of it is, and Gunner's mentioned it a couple of times, and he's right, the schedule is just brutal. It really is. So, I mean, everybody asks me now, how many wins? In all honesty, I can't go higher than 11.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at that schedule. And I think 11-6. And listen, 11-6 is still probably going to get you there. It's going to get you in the tournament. But everybody should be prepared that there's going to be a lot of this during the season. It's going to be a rough ride. It's going to be just because of the way it lays out. But I think the talent on this team is good enough that they'll find their way through it. But I don't think by any means that this is going to be a cakewalk back to the Super Bowl.
All right. Well, the season starts Thursday night, but the new show on the Inside the Birds platform, it is called Birds Weekly. It features our good friends, Derrick Gunn and Ray Didinger. It's going to be twice a week. That will start. I think Monday is our first day. Now, that's because the game's Thursday night, and we're going to have you guys probably start off on Monday of the week after, but probably be Tuesdays and Fridays for most Sunday games. But the point is, twice a week, Birds Weekly, Ray Didinger, Derrick Gunn, right here on the Inside the Birds platform, and we are so excited to welcome it. Guys, I mean, you're already part of the family. You did some shows last year for us. Derrick had Gunn on one, but we re-welcome you to the family and really looking forward to a great season. So thank you for joining us. That's going to do it for this special edition of Inside the Birds. For Ray Didinger, Derrick Gunn, Adam Caplan, I'm Geoff Mosher. Catch ya coming forward on a great NFL season and Eagle season upcoming. Have a great day, everybody.